Ayla stood protectively in front of Nick and Matrona. "Prove it," she demanded of the Sentinel. "How?" The Sentinel laughed. "Why are you asking me? You're the time traveler." Ayla responded with more than just a hint of a snarky tone. "I really shouldn't." The Sentinel held out for his box. "I'm too dangerous." Amara walked up close to the Sentinel, holding out her hand for the box. "No, don't!" The Sentinel tried to push her away, but they were off in a flash. Ayla and the children stood in stunned silence. "Auntie, where did they go?" Nick broke the silence after the flash. Matrona stayed quiet, as she was at this age. "Probably just some sort of magic trick." Ayla wasn't believing anything, not yet. "Okay, we get it. You're a good magician. Show yourselves." Ayla waited. No response. "What's time travel?" Matrona finally spoke up. "Is it real?" Nick hopped up and down excitedly. "Of course not. How could—" Ayla was interrupted by a flash of light in front of her. There stood the Paradox Master, his arms resting on Amara and the Sentinel's shoulders. The box floated in front of them. The three of them were covered in the black dust of the lone planet. Amara and the Sentinel were covered in slight burn marks, and the blood from Vax's wounds had stained the Sentinel's sleeves. "Hold on a second." Ayla was taken aback. "What's going on here?" "What's going on here," the Sentinel began, "is that your sister," he looked up at Ayla, "your mother," he looked down at Nick and Matrona, then back up at Ayla, "just fought in a war. 3047, the day the world ended and 5 billion people were saved, then moved to another planet that was attacked shortly after moving in. Amara saved that new planet. With the help of the Sentinel, of course." The Paradox Master dusted off his jacket. Ayla hesitated for a bit, squinting and mulling over every detail of the three of them. "Prove it." "Oh, come on, Ayla, really?" Amara laughed. "I mean, look at us. We obviously went somewhere." "You know, Amara, you can tell him all about it when the Sentinel and I go to Mars." The Paradox Master patted the Sentinel on the back. "Just be sure to come back soon." Amara looked back at the Sentinel. "Please?" "Sure." The Sentinel nodded. The Paradox Master held out his hand for the Sentinel's box, put his hand on his shoulder, and they flashed away. They appeared in front of a large, white, generic house on a forested cliffside by a beach. The home itself seemed artificial, like it had been there a while, but hadn't aged a second. The Sentinel looked around, surprised by the sudden change of location. "This is not Mars. Where are we?" "California." The Paradox Master pushed his fingers through his hair and made his way to the house's door. He seemed nervous. "Couldn't be more vague if you tried," the Sentinel murmured. "Earth." The Paradox Master knocked on the door. "Of course you can." The Paradox Master turned around. "Right, so we need to make a stop before we go to Mars. I don't know how much you remember of what happened on Mars when you were your second incarnation, but..." The door opened. The first Sentinel greeted the Paradox Master like an old friend. "One was there too," the Paradox Master added. "One?" The Sentinel stared blankly at his first incarnation. "I can never get used to this." "Hey, AJ, how's it going?" One gestured for them to come in. "Not..." The Sentinel began slowly. "Not great. I just ended the world." "Oh, tough. Heard about that." One chuckled. "Not looking forward to that, but hey, what are we gonna do? Come in, come in." "Actually, AJ." The Paradox Master turned around before the Sentinel could get through the door. "Go to Mars right now and wait for us. We have to do something real quick." "Got it." He was still staring at his past self. The Sentinel stepped back as the door closed. He stepped back even further to get a good look at the building. 5 years? He questioned himself. What was I up to? He flashed away, dismissing the thought. The surface of Mars gave him a weird sensation when he arrived. Knowing what would happen that day didn't seem right. He knew, at least he thought he knew, what kind of control he had. He felt like everything was his decision to make. And yet, he knew what decisions he would make before the situations even happened. He had an inkling of that feeling when he felt the urge to end the world. Something about this event worried him. "Hey!" A voice beckoned for him. It startled the Sentinel. He wasn't expecting anyone else to be there. He stood up and turned around. Before him stood a man in a suit, pale skin, red eyes, pitch black hair. "Sentinel?" The Sentinel asked. "Or Conchna. It's me. I've just been cloned and I realized that it was probably him here who attacked you. Or is going to attack you. I want to find him and stop that." "Oh shit, I remember this," the Sentinel whispered to himself. "What?" "Nothing." The Sentinel looked down at the ground, then back up at his third incarnation. "Look, you know you can't change events like that." A flash of light interrupted the Sentinel, and Conchna appeared before them. He punched the third Sentinel and forced him to flash away. "Damn it, I knew that would happen," the Sentinel said as he readied himself for a fight. But in that moment, 1, the Paradox Master, 2, and Vax's first incarnation flashed before them. Conchna straightened himself out and dusted himself off, making himself presentable. Wait, 2 looked around cautiously, with a hint of worry in his eyes. He directed his attention toward the Sentinel and Conchna. "I know you." He looked at the Sentinel. "And you." He looked at Conchna. "You were there too." "AJ." The Sentinel introduced himself by name, not moniker. 2 wasn't ready. He held out his hand for a handshake. Nice to meet you. 2 shook his hand. He turned his attention to Conchna. And you are? None of your business. Conchna was quick to respond. The Sentinel darted his eyes at him. Something about him was off. Okay then, so the 6 of us sitting alone on Mars in the midst of an imminent war and we're doing nothing. Right, now what? 2 seemed annoyed, and his complaint reminded the Sentinel of why they were all there in the first place. Now we blow up Mars, the Sentinel laughed, more at himself than the idea. What else? Whoa, that's not something you just do. Vax shook her hands in front of her defensively. Why would we do that? Vax, he's kidding. 2 tried to reassure her with little confidence. No, I'm being completely serious. We're blowing up Mars. The Sentinel felt weird saying those words. He remembered clearly someone else saying them. Knowing now that he said it left him feeling uneasy. I didn't agree to this. 2 turned his attention to the Paradox Master. I mean, sure, if you want Mars to crash into Earth, that's your prerogative, I don't care. Although I'm just gonna assume that's not what you want? 1 laughed. What do you mean, crash into Earth? We're way too far apart for that, 2 yelled, confused. Something otherworldly is happening here on Mars. Hidden under this planet's core are 5 separate nuclear-powered teleporters. They're designed to transport the planet to Earth and then blow up using what energy it has left. The Paradox Master explained to 2 and Vax. Who would even do that? Vax seemed concerned. I mean, even the Gars wouldn't do that. They want to take the world from us, and the Terrors are teamed up with them, so that doesn't leave many options. The universe is full of ill-intentioned beings. Just because you don't know they exist doesn't mean they don't. Conchna spoke, trying to avoid eye contact with 2. He darted his eyes toward the Sentinel, then back at the ground. The Sentinel couldn't comprehend why he was acting differently. Something was off about Conchna, and he couldn't tell what. There's gotta be another way to disable the teleporters other than exploding them. That just seems irresponsible. If we only disable them, they could easily be re-enabled. The Paradox Master took off his jacket and lit his arms aflame. Trust me, we've thought of everything. He slammed his fist into the red-orange dirt and began forcing the plasma deeper into its core. The Paradox Master quickly explained the plan. 1 then handed 2 a paper with coordinates, and 2 and Vax flashed away quickly afterwards. 1 handed the paper to the Sentinel, and to Conchna. 1 was about to flash away when the Sentinel interrupted him. Are none of you guys going to comment on him? The Sentinel gestured toward Conchna. No, why would we? 1 flashed away to work on his digging. That's Conchna! The Sentinel gestured toward him again. Yup, the Paradox Master continued to dig. Look, Conchna spoke up. Don't get me wrong, I hate you, all of you, just the Sentinels in general. Conchna lifted his gun from his side, and he pressed a button near his belt. But I hate the Andromedans just as much. Conchna vanished. The Sentinel stood in his place, looking at the Paradox Master with a confused look, like he wanted him to do something. A few moments passed, and the Paradox Master looked up from his digging. So you're gonna help or what? The Sentinel shook his head and flashed away to his coordinates. He began digging into the ground, and as he heard the connection with the machine, he flashed away, back in time, into 2's dig site. Looking around, he saw 2 and Vax being attacked by Conchna. Quick, Sentinel, fight back, I got this! The Sentinel yelled at 2, knowing what would be happening upon his arrival. AJ, what about your dig site? You'll die! 2 looked behind him as he shot a beam at Conchna from the safety of his dome shield. Sentinel, it's fine, save yourself, and the girl. The Sentinel blasted plasma energy with both arms into the ground below. 2 rolled out of the dome after some reluctance. Who are you? Vax yelled at the Sentinel over the sound of 2 fighting Conchna. You'll find out soon enough. The Sentinel lifted one arm from digging and prepared his finger gun. Sentinel! He yelled, getting 2's attention. He shot his plasma bullet directly into Conchna's shoulder. Conchna quickly vanished. Vax ran up to 2 with his box. Leave! The planet's gonna blow! The Sentinel yelled at the 2 of them. What about you? Vax yelled back. Leave! The Sentinel suddenly realized where he had to go next as flames began to shine through the cracks in the ground. 2 and Vax flashed away the second the ground burst, and not a moment after the first flame of the explosion grazed the Sentinel's sleeves, he too flashed away. The Sentinel appeared in a flash, mid-fall in the sky. Some of the explosion teleported with him. He fell to the ground, wafting up dust in the red-orange dirt. No! He shouted, looking up. He saw a group of people in front of him, and his brain scrambled to take in the surroundings. He paused, dazed, and counted the group of people standing, watching him. 6 of us! He stood, and around him stood 1, 2, 3, Vax, and the Paradox Master, all confronting Rogar. Oh, now you've done it, 1 said. You've gone and brought in AJ. It was the moment that 3 learned that Rogar was still alive and well, and when he realized that they still had a planet to call home. The Sentinel came to help. Rogar looked up to the skies, blasting the air with his flames. Hundreds of Gars and Terrors appeared from behind the building with a broken wall. That can't be good. The Sentinel was still hazy on the details of his memory, especially after narrowly escaping the explosion of Mars. The 6 of them lined up, all prepared to fight. Before anyone could make the first move, the Sentinel blasted plasma towards Rogar, trying to stun him. Can everyone use plasma? 3 complained. I don't really think now's the time to complain, the Sentinel yelled back to him. Rogar roared toward the sky, sending out bursts of plasma, even burning his allies. Rogar pulled out 3's box and slammed it on the floor, attempting to activate the shield. In his attempt, he only forced the box into the ground, breaking it into pieces. No! 3 ran forward. The Paradox Master flew up behind him with his bright plasma wings, and flew 3 up to Rogar's head. 3 knocked Rogar to the floor with a flaming punch. Terrors surrounded them. The Sentinel extended his hand to the ground and sent out a blast of purple lightning, redirecting it between as many terrors as he could. He didn't mean to do what he did. He held out his hands and stared at them, confused. Lightning? He questioned himself. Since when? 1 sent out a wave of plasma at the terrors in the sky. Vax and 2 ducked underneath it. As the wave hit all of the terrors, they exploded. 3 pinned Rogar. The Sentinel laughed, holding his hands up to the sky. Gars began to surround them, preparing to attack. The Sentinel blasted one of them with a bolt of electric plasma. The Gar fell to the ground in a spasm, and its allies watched, horrified. You seeing this? The Sentinel laughed, getting 1's attention. This is amazing! Careful with that stuff. The Paradox Master turned around and blasted a terror away from him as it snuck up on him. It's really unpredictable. A Gar approached the Sentinel, and he bombarded it with electric plasma. The bolts of electric plasma fired back, and a few grazed the Sentinel. He stopped and wafted away a stream of smoke coming from his shoulder. Got it, he responded to the Paradox Master, again looking down at his hands, questioning himself. 1 kicked a Gar away, and as he finished his spin, he noticed the broken wall losing its stability. 3, watch out! 1 yelled towards him. It took 3 a while to process that 1 was referring to him. Sentinel! Vax yelled. The Paradox Master boosted himself forward and tried to hold up the wall to stop it from hitting 3. The Sentinel came in too, and slid underneath a corner and held it up. With both he and the Paradox Master holding up the wall, and Rogar and his allies gone, 1 pulled up plasma crystal structures from the ground to support the wall. The Paradox Master crawled under the wall and dragged 3 out from underneath. The Sentinel approached the Paradox Master. You seem to know a lot about plasma. I know a lot in general. The Paradox Master held his fingers to 3's neck, checking for a pulse. This lightning stuff, the Sentinel began before he was interrupted by Vax. You saw that, right? Vax shook the Paradox Master's shoulders. That plasma stuff, I was controlling it too. I thought I remembered the Sentinel saying something about only those who have phase can control it or whatever. Alright, enough with the questions, I'm not Google, the Paradox Master laughed at himself. No one else did. Right. Anyway, sure, normally you can't control the stuff unless you phase, whatever, but, if you were somehow imbued with the power or whatever, then sure. The Paradox Master turned his attention to the Sentinel. And if you've been controlling the stuff for long enough. He pulled out a pen. He held it with his teeth as he rummaged around in his pockets. He pulled out a crumpled sticky note and began to write on it with the pen. Then eventually you can more easily control whatever form it takes. Like electricity. How many forms of plasma are there? Okay, well, take all the basic forms of matter you learned in elementary school, solid, liquid, gas, maybe your teachers mentioned plasma, and then take everything you know about those and flush them down the drain, because plasma can take on forms you don't even know exist. The Paradox Master pulled out a heavily folded blue paper and laid it out on the ground. He put his pen away in favor of a white pencil. Geez, you could have just said a lot. The Sentinel kneeled down to 3's unconscious body. 1 walked up and dropped 3's box's broken pieces on the ground next to the blue paper. What's going on? Well, 3's box is broken. He's going to need to know how to make it again, so I'm drawing up blueprints. The Paradox Master glanced at the pieces. Vax walked away and approached 2. Wait a second. Vax told me when I was 3, you told her you got them from the lab before they burned. Oh no, those blueprints are beyond gone. The Paradox Master placed the pieces in the blueprints and rolled it up. 2! He called out for the second Sentinel. He gave him the blueprints. Take 3 and Vax home. I'll be with you shortly to get your mind wiped. Like I said earlier, I want to avoid as many paradoxes as possible. Vax, look, I left a note on those blueprints. Make sure the Sentinel sees it. Let him know I picked these up from his lab before they burned. The Paradox Master turned around and stood up. The Sentinel stood with him. 1 flashed away, and shortly after he did, both 2, Vax, and 3 flashed away. A silence fell over both the Sentinel and the Paradox Master. Where are we? The Sentinel asked sternly. I blew up Iliospherium. I know. Yeah, you did, didn't you? And you didn't think Rogar would know? The Paradox Master kneeled down and grasped the coarse dirt in his hands, letting it spill out between his fingers as he stood. This isn't the sand of Iliospherium. The Paradox Master's hands burst into purple flame, and the sand solidified into a rock. You would expect someone like Rogar to have favoritism for his home planet when taking over new ones, and with near infinite space in this universe, he was bound to find one like it. He calls it Iliospherium 2. Dumb, I know, but the Paradox Master dropped the rock after examining it. He found this planet, and with the help of reportedly divine intervention, though I can't confirm, and seems unlikely, he wiped out its locals, moved in, then moved it across the universe into the Andromedan's backyard. The Paradox Master kicked the rock across the ground. The only way to stop Rogar is to kill him. Speaking of death, the Sentinel kicked the rock back and shot it with his finger gun, shattering it back into its grainy origins. The Paradox Master laughed. You know where I'm going with this. The Sentinel put down his hand. Soon, the Paradox Master shoved his hands into his pockets. I'm sorry, but nothing I can do or say will make you feel any better about the situation, and there's no way to avoid having to do it. All I can say is, when the time comes, you'll understand. Well, that's stupid. I want to know now. Don't we all? The Paradox Master vanished, leaving the Sentinel alone on Illusiferium 2. He stood for a while, coat blowing in the wind, before he noticed a blueprint, held down to the ground by a heavy rock. He picked it up and examined it. It was for the box, but it was crossed out. A reject blueprint of the Paradox Masters. He looked up at his box. After a short pause, he reached out for it and flashed away.